You guys all love as seen on TV advertisements, right? I mean, who doesn't? They have buy one get one free sales, payments that are 1 penny less than what they should be, and that funny little logo in the shape of a TV. But what if these ads sell their wholesome, helpful soul to the advertisement devil and become something dangerous, just for the sake of sales? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today, a 2000s ad titled The Juiceman's Power of Juicing. The Juiceman's Power of Juicing is an as seen on TV advertisement for, you probably guessed it, a juicer. But not just any juicer, one that'll apparently change your life forever. But let's learn a bit more about the Juiceman himself, the host of the program, Jay Kordich. Well, there's actually not a lot to say. He played college football for the University of Southern California, later on being almost drafted for the Green Bay Packers until he got diagnosed with inoperable bladder cancer. He then went on to discover his newfound love of juicing, going as far to say that he was cured from said cancer by, quote, consuming 13 glasses of carrot and apple juice every day. So if that's any indication of the medical validity of this product, it's safe to say it's not looking too good. That's enough medically disputed statements for now. Now let's get to the video itself. So throughout the video, there's lots of health talk, namely buzzwords and some slight misinformation. There's also lots of personal testimonies that all hail the product as some sort of miracle cure that'll just magically make everyone's problems disappear. There's also some professional athlete insights, which is misleading for another reason, but we'll get through all of these three later on in the video. The point is, all these different factors all make for a highly misleading and predatory ad. It preys on a certain audience, those obsessed with fitness or health, or even those who just want to better themselves, and it convinces them to buy the product through deceptive measures. So first, we're going to talk about the theory advertising is magic by Welsh writer Raymond Williams, which is quite the tongue twister. The basic summary of this theory is that there's two types of ads: respectable ads, which are truthful and straightforward, and puff ads, which are misleading, marketory, or even just straight up false, and they're trying really hard to sell you something, and most of the time you can tell. This theory also talks about how advertising firms target people and that people make implicit connections from the media itself, which those points we'll get back to in a bit. Williams says, quote, advertising turned from the simple proclamation and reiteration with simple associations of the earlier respectable trade to the new methods of psychological warfare, end quote. What Williams is saying here is that puff marketing is essentially psychological warfare. It's bordering between falsehood and almost truths, and the audience is getting heavily implied messages from the advertisement that aren't necessarily true. They're being preyed on, or in other words, in a battle for information. Raymond goes on to say that these ads mix their charms and expedience with reality in easily available forms, binding the weakness to the condition which has created it. He's basically saying that these ads prey on the weak, and they feel that there's no other choice than to purchase the product because they see that it's a miracle cure and they think it'll fix all their problems, when in reality it won't. People who strive to be healthful feel bad about themselves, and they feel like they're not healthy, or they feel like they're living and eating and drinking wrong and doing all this stuff because the video says that they're doing it wrong. And it convinces them to buy the product because they feel like they need to fix it. Moving away from Williams, let's get to the real meat, or should I say juice, of the video. Now into our next theory, which is encoding decoding by cultural theorist Stuart Hall. The basic summary of this theory is it illustrates views of how media messages are produced, circulated, and consumed in order to propose a new theory of communication. In other words, it explains how productions convey messages through to the audience. Hall describes the process of encoding messages with this quote, and bear with me, it is a long one. Hall states that production constructs the message. It's framed throughout by meanings and ideas, knowledge and use concerning the routines of the production, historically defined technical skills, professional ideologies, institutional knowledge, definitions and assumptions. Assumptions about the audience and so on frame the constitution of the program through the production structure. They draw topics, treatments, agendas, events, personnel, images of the audience, definitions of the situation from other sources, and other discursive formations." End quote. Hall is saying that there are aspects that help productions encode meaning to their audience. The main three aspects are technical infrastructure, which is the means of which the message is delivered, relations of production, which is the messages encoded by the production crews, especially through camera shots, and, most importantly, the frameworks of knowledge, which is the specific messages that are used in the programming to convey a certain preferred point to the audience. Hall states that it is this set of decoded meanings which have an effect, influence, entertain, instruct, or persuade with very complex perceptual, cognitive, emotional, ideological, or behavioral consequences. Now let's talk about these meanings when it comes to our ad, the Juice Man's Power of Juicing, which is a name that I personally will never get tired of saying. First, we're going to talk about the technical infrastructure, which, if you remember, is the medium of which the ad is shown. This ad would have been shown on TV in the early 2000s. This pre-housing crisis 2000s was a time where American capitalism and consumerism had a second-hand resurgence since its peak in the 1940s to the 1970s, peaking with a spending-to-income ratio as high as 97%. This fact, combined with the powerhouse that is modern 21st century advertisement, gives this ad a steady base to build upon on the get-go, even before the more subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, misleading aspects of the ad itself. Now, speaking of the ad itself, let's get into more detail of what makes it so deceptive. This, of course, brings us to the relations of production, which breaks down how the production of the commercial is used to sell product. There are a few key camera shots throughout this ad that subtly convey a message to the viewers. Firstly, Jay, our host, and the multitude of other speakers who show up on this program are all speaking nearly exclusively towards the camera, or, in extension, right to the audience. This makes the entire ad feel much more personal, as well as making the host seem like they're selling the product right to you. Secondly, there are many shots throughout this where the Juicemaster itself and our host Jay is surrounded by healthful food. This implicates how healthy the Juicemaster really is, and it brings home the point that this product is meant to change you for the better. Finally, we're going to talk about the frameworks of knowledge, which are the messages the audience decodes from the ad itself. First, we're going to talk about the straight-up misleading or even just incorrect facts by our host, who was nowhere near a scientific expert, as we heard in the intro.
See, here's the powers of life. Plants are the factories of life, and only the juice of the fiber actually penetrates through the intestinal wall to get in the bloodstream to feed your 100 trillion cells.
He claims that only juiced fiber is helpful to your, quote, 100 trillion cells, which is not only untrue, but is untrue for the sake of selling something to the customer. It's showing the customer that they would be at a detriment if they did not live without the product. Not to mention that there aren't even 100 trillion cells in our body. There's more like 40 trillion. Now we're going to get into some of the claims that our host and totally not paid actors make throughout this ad. A lot of people straight up say that juicing made their life better, which is a suspicious point, but can't be exactly disputed. Athlete Mark McGuire, along with our host, says that juicing gives them stamina, which is a particularly dicey point, especially because it's from the point of view from an athlete who likely trained hard over long periods of time to get their stamina up. This makes the audience think that juicing will basically give them a free stamina, and that's just not true. Our host Jay pulls a Dr. Otto Octavius and says that
Life and energy, vitality, strength, endurance, You got it all in the palm of your hand if you apply it.
And all we need to do is get the juicer. He also sings songs of anti-aging.
How to juice to lose weight, stay young, and fight disease.
And basically says that if you don't get this juicer, it'll be life or death. You will die if you do not start drinking juice right now with his juicer. No other juicer, just his.
You have a choice. What's your choice? Health or sickness? Life or premature aging and death? It's your choice. The rest is up to you.
Now, if you notice what the people are actually saying in these clips, there's a lot of buzzwords, words like vitality, energy, life, stamina, health, and other positive wording that makes the audience, again, feel like this machine will change their life. And you must have it in order to feel truly healthy. In conclusion, it's pretty clear to see that this ad, like many others, are developed entirely to be convincing and misleading to their audience. Through these techniques, these ads prey on people who want to better themselves, i.e. make themselves more healthy, and those who see this product as some sort of miracle cure like the video says. This advertisement unfairly leads them to buy this product they're so convinced they cannot live without, but in actuality, they likely don't even need it. I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm pretty sure I went over my allotted time, but if you're gonna take anything from this video, I want you to think about advertisements and the tactics they use to convince their audience to buy. If anything, it's quite interesting to peel back the layers. Thanks for listening.